If I had told you then that you'd eventually play in the NFL, I mean, would you have thought I was crazy?
I thought you were crazy. And if you had told me that was going to happen, no, I was done. I thought that window was closed.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Leverett Ball Show. And on this episode, I'm joined by Johnathan Flowers. And Johnathan, you have essentially done everything during your life. You're a military veteran. You played in the NFL. You worked in the corporate world in both marketing and AI strategy. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing probably you're also an astronaut. You just haven't told anyone. I mean, how have you been able to juggle all these different things?
Honestly, man, it's some of it's been just what we call serendipity. I went in the military first. I got out. My dad was out here on a computer contract working for a company. I came out to visit, loved California, and obviously California had Silicon Valley. So you got exposed to that because you were around people all the time. So I went to school, decided to come out here and stay, loved the weather, went to school out here, played football out here. I think that turned into getting on an NFL practice squad and turned into a brief career there. Then I got back in technology because it's around us all the time here. So it was just kind of like things, it wasn't conscious choices, I guess. It was always constantly just pushing me there. But what I've learned over that time was if you're always preparing, you're always studying, you're always staying ready, good things come your way.
Definitely, definitely. And so you had to, you went the route of, joining the military out of high school and then playing college football after serving in the military. So, you weren't entering college football as, an 18-year-old freshman. How old were you when you transitioned from the military into college football?
Well, I graduated high school a year early. I was 17 when I graduated. So I got to go in the military like early because my parents let me. So when I got out, it was literally 18, 19, 20, 20. I was just about to turn 21 when I got out. So I was a couple of years older than most of the guys on my team. And they called me old man at that time, which is funny. When you think back, someone's calling a 20-year-old an old man or a 21-year-old. But what it did was I was so much more disciplined and so much more responsible than a lot of the guys on my team. I mean, coaches put me in charge of drills or in charge of setting up certain things or, hey, we have a meeting thing. Hey, Flowers, make sure they all get there. It was just by association because I was never late to practice. I was never not prepared. I didn't stay out late doing dumb stuff like they did because I was a little more mature about it. But what it also made me realize is, you have the patience that you have to have. Like I understood the coaches having to be patient with some of the young knuckleheads and jump.
Definitely, definitely. You mentioned, you're older than the other guys you played with. I mean, also you had been in the military, which is a very strict, disciplined environment. So, your first year of college football, you were coming out of the military. That's a lot stricter than someone coming out of their senior year of high school and, having senior skip day and all that stuff. So I guess maybe you were more prepared for college football than the other guys. But, what are your main memories from your time serving in the military?
I think the biggest thing for me was it literally took me out of my neighborhood where all I knew was my street and a couple other neighborhoods near that were adjoining in Maryland and the 7-Eleven at the corner and what we had, I think it was called Lake Forest Mall or something like that. That's all we knew. We didn't know much. And then suddenly you're pulled into a situation where you're in multiple different states, you're in multiple different countries, around different kinds of people, different cultures, different foods. It was it was really eye-opening and enlightening, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It grew you up. It really grew you up, and it grew you up fast. And I think it grew up in the right way because it was through immersion, not forcing things on you. If that makes sense. Mhm.
Definitely, definitely. And so, it's funny because I first met you in 2022, but I don't think I knew this. You grew up in Maryland because I
Yeah.
grew up in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
I actually, this whole time I didn't know we grew up in the same state.
Yeah. I was, Dorwood Rockville area. I went to Magruder High School.
Okay, awesome. So, wow. So were you, because I live in the Boston area now. People give me a hard time about how I'm a Ravens fan from my time growing up in Baltimore. Were you a Ravens fan back in the day?
They weren't there yet. The Colts and the Redskins were there. So you were either or. And believe it or not, I was a Raider fan back then. I became a Raider fan in 1976 when the Vikings and the Raiders played the Super Bowl.
So, okay, so interesting because yeah, that was before the Colts moved to Indianapolis, and that was like 2 names ago for the they're the Commanders now. before that, the Washington football team, before that, the Redskins. So Washington was 2 names ago, and the Colts were still in Baltimore at the time. So it's crazy how the pro football landscape has changed. And I mean, speaking of teams that have, uh, changed locations, the Raiders, I mean, you played for them coming out of San Jose State. And so, I mean, it's interesting because I talked about your background being in the military before you went and played college football. So, I mean, when you were getting out of high school and joining the military and not playing college football right away, if I had told you then that you'd eventually play in the NFL, I mean, would you have thought I was crazy?
No, I thought you were crazy. I literally, when I got out, I went to 1 year community college at De Anza College here in Cupertino because the GI Bill is not a lot of money, just FYI. But I want to get my GE out of the way as much as possible before I transferred to a 4 year university. And if you had told me that was going to happen, no, I was done. I thought that window was closed, and it wasn't on purpose. They had a flag football tournament or game going on, and a couple buddy of mine, like Leon Hawthorne and a couple of guys like that, said, "Hey man, come out and play with us, man." And Alden Barrett and said, "Come out and play with us." And they had some of the guys that were San Jose State's blue chippers that year, their best recruits or something. And they were talking. They were jawing. They were running their mouth. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And we just went off and just laid into them. And the coach saw me, came and got me and said, "Hey, would you think about coming and trying out?" And that's what happened.
So basically, the reason your NFL career ever existed was because you were casually playing in a football game, flag football game against top recruits. So that's
Uh-huh.
actually kind of crazy that a flag football game was kind of the initial spark that led
Yeah,
to your eventual NFL career. And I mean, also, when you decided to come out of high school to join the military, were there college football programs that were recruiting you then?
absolutely.
Or did you not maybe have exposure to get recruited?
No,
Or
absolutely. My brother was already a top recruit playing, had cousins that were already being playing. My dad had been a tight end with the Redskins for a while and then we got into computer science and stuff. And let me tell you, there were people reaching out for our family for sure. And I just full disclosure, I just felt pressure. I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And everybody was telling me what I was supposed to do, what school I was going to go to, who I was going to get recruited by. And I just was like, guys, I'm 17 years old. I don't even know what's beyond the mall. So I wanted to see more things. And in a way, I kind of joined the military out of just the recruiter talked to me, caught me at the right moment. You're going to see the world, do all that kind of, the recruiters, how recruiters are in the movies and stuff. They're similar to that
yeah.
for a while. They're selling you. And I got recruited. So I went in the military. I took my shot.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the military recruiters in movies. That reminds me of the Forrest Gump movie when the guy says, "Young man, have you thought about your future?"
Yeah.
And and Forrest Gump talks about getting shot in the buttocks. Yeah, but just about so many movies have scenes with military recruiters. But how
Yeah.
how unrealistic are those scenes in the movies, or is it actually a little bit realistic the way they
It's
talk?
pretty realistic in the sense of they're don't get me wrong, they're still sailors, airmen, Marines, and soldiers, but their job is recruiting, and they take that seriously. And it's part of their quotas, their mandates, and they are salesmen. They're a salesman, and they're sent back to recruit in their own hometown, and they do a good job. They talk about the world and what they've seen. They lay it on a little thick. They don't. I wouldn't say they lie, but they lay it on a little thick.
Obviously, I mentioned, your time with the Raiders. I remember also when I first met you in 2022, you told me a very funny story about when you were actually a free agent in the NFL and you'd been out partying and an NFL team, the Jets, randomly called you while you were hungover and told you to come to a tryout a few hours later. And you actually made the team trying out wasted. I mean, first of all, that's incredible. That might be the most, impressive athletic accomplishment I've ever heard of. I mean, I can't even physically stand up when I'm hungover. But what was that whole experience like trying out for, an NFL team hungover slash still blacked out?
So let me give context to the story. And if there's any young people listening, this is a good learning lesson. I didn't have a contract, and I'm saying I'm going to give this dream one more shot. If something doesn't happen in the next year or so, I'm out. I'm gonna get a real job. And we were out drinking and out partying, and they didn't have the internet then. So we happened to be in New York, and my mom called and said, "Hey, we just got a letter here because they call waiver letters to let people know that you're a free agent, and your agent calls them or your manager's looking for teams for you." And it's not like the internet where my phone goes blink and I get a notification or a text. So she told me about this. I said, "Well, when is it?" And I called the guy on the number and said, "Hey, I know you have an open trial. You want to bring some people in for OTAs because you're trying to fill some roster spots going into spring training." And I said, when is this? And I'm thinking, wow, this is Thursday. I'll have Friday to sober up. And he's going to say Saturday morning. That's not what he said. He said, we're having some in Friday morning. If you're cool Friday morning, you come back in on Saturday and then you're done. We're not having practice on Sunday. I said, okay, cool. I said, I got off the phone and went, did I hear him right? And I went, oh gosh. And so I took a cab, got to the facility, hung out with a buddy of mine lived nearby. I stayed with him, went in the facility. Dude, I'm telling you, I must have threw up at least 3 or 4 times. I'm drinking water. I'm drinking a Pedialyte, anything to get fluid back in my body, to replace fluids going and get myself normalized. And I wasn't like super, super bad. I've been worse. And that like a night in Vegas, but it was
Damn.
bad enough that I was struggling. And I went out there. We went through a bunch of drills, bunch of movements, some combine type tests. We did some one-on-ones and stuff. And I thought I did okay, not great, but they thought, apparently I did well enough to say, hey, will you come back Saturday? So I was very lucky that I did well enough to come back the next day because I had a whole day now to recover. And guys were like, hey man, you want to go out after that? And I was like, dude, I'm going back to the house and I'm going to sleep and I'm going to get as much rest, stretch, and get myself back together for Saturday as humanly possible. So
Wow.
it was a valuable lesson learned. I tell people all the time, now my new phrase for the rest of my life after that was be ready, stay ready, and you don't have to get ready because you don't know when those opportunities are going to come along. And if you're goofing around acting stupid or feeling sorry for yourself or doing all this kind of stuff, those things can pass you by. Because think about it, if I had been too drunk or too drinking to answer the phone to talk to my mother, I wouldn't have known.
Hmm.
Like all those things had to line up, you know?
Yeah, well, and I guess, I mean, it's definitely a funny story, but like you said, you encourage young people to, make good decisions. So any kids listening, don't get wasted and do drugs. You heard it from Johnathan Flowers.
Yep.
I remember because I was a college baseball player. I never played, a sport at the pro level, but I remember my senior year of high school. I went on a recruit visit for baseball at a school in Ohio called Wittenberg University. And
Okay.
you know how it is with like college sports recruit visits where you stay in a dorm with players on the team and to try to get you to come to the school, they like take you out and party and try to get you drunk and try to set you up with girls. I remember because I ended up actually going to Wittenberg. And when I was actually playing there, one of our assistant coaches told us, we have one of our top pitching recruits coming for a visit. You guys need to get him laid. So, like, they try to get you drunk, try to set you up with girls on these recruit visits to get you to come. So, during my recruit visit, they got me absolutely wasted. I puked multiple times. And then the next day, I had like a campus tour with like the admissions people and like all of the kids who were like looking at the school, not just sports recruits, but just anyone who was interested in the school was going on this tour. And I actually skipped my tour because I was so hungover and went and hid from the tour guide in the dining hall and just chugged Gatorade and water. And I couldn't even like go on a walk around campus with the tour guide. I can't imagine actually playing a sport in that condition. Like,
Ugh.
imagine if the coach had said, like, we're actually not sure if we want to recruit you. How about you play some baseball right now? I would have been fucked. They would have been like, we're de-recruiting you. You're horrible. You can't even throw and catch the ball right now. So I've been
Yeah.
there, but yeah, I don't
Now,
know.
I
Now
admire
I'm,
you for baseball because what I learned real quickly is that almost being 6'5",
yeah,
when you get to the higher levels, and if you
yeah,
can't hit a curveball or a slider, you're done.
yeah, right.
I never I mean, I get it once in a while, but I never ever mastered hitting a curveball. I was a real good third baseman, but I just couldn't do it. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you look at my college stats, I didn't hit the curveball very well either. I can say I played in college, but spent a lot of time on the bench. So, yeah, I didn't hit the curveball that well either. That's why I'm an interviewer and not, playing in the MLB right now. But yeah, but it's interesting. But I mean, of all of your time in the NFL, beyond, actually making a team during a drunk tryout, I mean, what were your favorite memories? Or was that number one out of all of them? I
No,
mean, that's
I
an
have
impressive
three.
story.
I have three that I think are the best memories ever. One was playing in NFL Europe for a year. That was like college with money at the time. Like you had free room and board. Everybody was trying to get back in the NFL. They were trying to perfect their craft so people would put them on a roster. There were no superstars on the team. It was all raw there. You were paid for performance. The coaches were in the same boat you were. They were trying to show that they could coach and become assistants or higher level on some teams. So everybody's kind of in the same boat. And European fans really embraced you more than I thought they would. I thought, we're not soccer players, or excuse me, European football, and they embraced us. So that was the funnest time. It was just there was no stress, no pressure. It was just really getting to enjoy the game and get paid. It was awesome. The second time I think was the most memorable. I wouldn't say it was the greatest time, but it was the most memorable time. Was our first like full contact practice. Derek Fenner, who played 3 years with the Seahawks, 3 years with the Bengals, and 3 years with the Raiders, he had come over. Dude, um, that man laid me out, like caught me they ran a sweep, like his power tray eye. He came around the corner. I lowered my shoulder and I thought, yeah, I got this guy. I'm, young, full of vinegar and everything like that. Man, it really made me realize I need to get in the weight room. I need to stop relying just on athletic ability. I have to become a better technician. I have to better perfect my craft and get better at myself, because if this is what I'm going to be dealing with, I'm not going to make it. And it changed my tune. It didn't scare me, but it humbled me enough. I actually called my dad, I called family members that had played and said, I'm not sure I can play this level. What do I need to do here? Because it woke me up. It woke me up and grew me up in about 5 seconds. And
Wow.
then
And so it inspired you getting humbled like that.
yeah, and the third time was Jerry Jones and Mike and Al Davis were real good friends. So they do a lot of inter squad scrimmages in the NFL, like practices. And just for everybody to know, what you see on Hard Knocks, that stuff is still edited. You're getting more exposure than you've ever seen, but that stuff is still edited. And keep in mind how it was before there were cameras, before all that stuff. Most of the time in practice like this, your ones don't go up against your ones. Like your first string offense doesn't go up against your first string defense, because you don't want to get people hurt. you know. So you're like your second and third string guys that you're looking to see what's going on. Even fourth string guys are like special team guys. They're going up against like their first and second string on offense for the team, so that you can get some evaluation and vice versa on another field. And Michael Irvin and guys like that are superstars. They don't practice the whole time. They do a couple of series and then they're out. Then you're looking at the backups and they're trying to get some evaluations there. So we're in practice, and Michael is just phenomenal. Don't sleep on that man. Like, if he had never made the Hall of Fame, I would have never had respect for it. Forget him off the field, get him as a person. That's his world, and that's it. You don't know him as a person. But on the field, he was just phenomenal. He would tell you the route he was running, what he was going to do, how he was going to move on you, move the footstep he was going to take, and just embarrass you. And he just kept John. And it was so bad that one of the other players told him, "Hey, come on, Mike, leave those boys alone." And I don't know what about that made me snap. I was like, "What do you mean leave us alone? We're grown men. You don't talk to us like that." And I snapped. And I started rotating in drills to cover the starters. Like, I was not backing down. I was getting my ass kicked, don't get me wrong, but I was not backing down from these guys anymore. I was done. It was embarrassing that you were talking like that to us, and we're grown people. And apparently he went and told one of the coaches, "You need to keep that kid," because he didn't back down.
You mentioned now they edit the video. I mean, and the videos of it. I mean, behind the scenes, is some of the trash talk just like vicious?
It's incredible, dude. You got to realize. I want people to understand, like in any sport, especially when you're trying to go professional level. Some of these people, some of us have been doing this since we were 5 and 6 years old. And now this is our moment. You think you can let someone push you around, talk mess to you, say something to you, and you're just going to go, "Hey, sorry, thank you. I'm so grateful to be here." That's not how this works. No, you've been a competitive person. In some cases, you're in your high school, your college, or both, you've been the man. And you're not lowering your standards for these people. So what happens is, now all of a sudden you're in practice. Now all of a sudden you're doing a joint practice where you're hitting someone who's not on your team. Well, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble if you hit him. So you're just going off, and the amount of money mouth talking that goes on is insane. Like, it's like what you see on TV, if you ever notice on TV now, you'll hear whistle blowing, but they're zoomed in on the coach and the quarterback talking, or the referee doing something. But you can hear yelling and screaming and stuff in the background,
Yeah.
whistling, because they're trying to stay away from showing fights and altercations. They don't want that to show that image, which is fine, but it happens way more than you think it does.
Occasionally they're the hot mic incidents, but a lot of things don't get picked up. I mean, I've heard also like with football, some of the trash talk is more personal. Like from what I've heard, some of the stuff in the NFL, the guys will even like look up the names of
Oh,
someone's
yeah.
wife or mom. I mean, it
Mhm.
gets really deep like that.
Yeah, so there's 3 levels of trash talk, and there's, "Imma keep telling you how great I am, what I'm gonna do to you, but I'm not talking about you, I don't care who you are. Like, you can't cover me. Oh, dude, catch another one, I'm gonna hurt you." Like, that kinda stuff is personal hyping up and keeping your energy up. I have no problems with that. Then there's stuff where it's directed at the person, and you're talking about them as a player or a combatant. Then there's that 3rd level where someone's trying to get at you because they're talking about your family, your kids, and little things like that. I mean, the worst thing I think I ever said was a dude caught one and flipped it in my face and said something to me, and I was already heated. I was already heated, just full disclosure. And I said, "Dude, I'm gonna let you catch one more in my area, and then I'm gonna end your days just so your family justifies their tickets. And just keep talking to me." And I said, "Ref, tell him to stop talking. I'm dead serious. You tell him to stop talking to me."
Yeah, and you have to draw the line with people,
Yep.
somewhere. It's also, I mean, I think one of the craziest parts of sports is the fan trash talk. Like
Oh, dude, it's brutal.
they get, I mean, I feel like sometimes the fans are even meaner than the players. And there's kind of a double standard where players get in trouble if they talk back to fans. Where do you think the line should be drawn with Celtics trash talk or with fan trash talk?
I think like there's a certain thing. It's like keep in mind all these sports teams, MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL, they're brands. And my thing, if you want that brand, you want that brand to be marketed and sold right, especially to young kids, especially as a family sport. If fans are doing that and it's really bad, find your organization. Find your organization. Do something to stop that, because my biggest problem with that is you're paying a ticket to watch a sport event, but you don't, that doesn't give you access to my life or me. That doesn't give you access.
Yeah,
You don't know me. You don't know me. For all you know, right the day the game, right for that game, one of my best friends could have passed away, and I'm sucking it up to play through this
yeah,
game. So, okay, you don't know. So I
yeah.
just think they need to look at that. However, I do understand being spirited. Like when fans talk to each other fans, knock yourselves out. You want to chant, you want to cheer your team on, or boo when not performing well? No problem. But you don't need to personally come after me as a player or another player and say something to us. It
I
doesn't it
agree.
doesn't do anything. And here's the thing, I'm a big fan of this. Not to be, no pun intended. Don't say stuff to me that you wouldn't say to me if you ran into me on the street. You wouldn't say that stuff.
Exactly.
You're doing that stuff in the stands or on the internet, but if you ran into me on the street, you wouldn't have said that.
Exactly. No, 100%. 100%. 150-pound nerd sitting in the stands would not say shit to an NFL player if they ran into them in the street. I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, my final comment on that thing with fan trash talk is there was a Boston Red Sox player a couple years ago who opened up about how he unsuccessfully attempted suicide, and he'd been battling some mental health challenges, but he said one of the things that actually pushed him over the edge to the point where he attempted suicide was fan trash talk online. And every
Yeah.
time he checked his phone,
Yeah.
people were attacking him personally. So it really, pro athletes are humans, and they, they're affected by this stuff the way anyone would be. So I do think, with fan trash talk, sometimes it's taken, way too far. But also we've talked about, your time in the military, your time playing sports, but you've also done a lot in the corporate world, in both marketing and AI strategy. And what was the transition like when you'd already been in the military and, been in the barracks and been in the locker room in the NFL, then going into an office? I mean, was that a crazy transition at first?
Yeah, absolutely. My original degree was in graphic design and creative writing. So I have two. So I wanted to be in the creative side, commercials, design work, the advertisement that you see, all that kind of stuff. And I got transitioned more into business development and sales and marketing because they're too adjacent. And over time, but the hardest transition to go into corporate America, and this isn't every company, but in football and in the military, there is a structure, there's a hierarchy that you clearly understand that you've agreed to be a part of. You know, I'm not a player's not going to scream and yell and go all the way up to the owner because the DB coach who's reporting to the assistant coordinator, he's reporting to the defense coordinator, who's reporting to the head coach. There is a chain of responsibility. That area gets so blurred in corporate America. It's not even funny. It just it's not even funny. And you're not necessarily being based on like sports. I have my stats. Military, you have regulations and performance. Now, is there discrimination and dumb stuff like that happens? Absolutely. But in corporate America, that line is so blurred. It's not even funny. I mean, you don't spend an hour in a meeting in football making sure that Leverett's feelings have been heard. He's been acknowledged about a project. That's not what happens. It's we're doing this. Here's what we're going to work on. Anybody got any questions about what we're working on? How can I help you get there? That's it. There's no back and forth and consensus and feeling collaborative and junk like that. And I know that when you do that in corporate America, there are results where they say, hey, this is going to make the team perform better. It's going to make the team perform better. Yeah, well, threatening the fireman losing their job makes them perform better a little bit too. If you think you're going to get cut that day, imagine walking in the office and thinking you could lose your job that day because you messed up on a project. You'd be a lot more diligent, a lot more paying attention to details. You'd be a lot more collaborative. You'd be a lot more helping people out if you knew that was going to directly impact your ability to take care of your family.
So it's more of a gentle culture, in the corporate world as opposed to the military or a football locker room.
Yeah, it's a little more gentle in the sense of structure. There's still jerks and people and people that yell and scream or are abusive in those environments and or cutthroat or a player that's politics, but it's not. It's different. There's like you have to navigate people more so than the situation. If that makes sense.
100%. And so did you kind of have to alter your mindset a little bit from like the mindset that helped you to survive in the military and the NFL? Did you have to kind of change just your general approach with things when you went into the corporate world?
Absolutely, because you get people saying, "Well, I'm on time every day," and I go, "Well, you're supposed to be on time. That's not a
Yeah,
flex. That's not an accomplishment. You're supposed to be on time." you
right.
know? Or I got my project done, a day early. Hey, great. Appreciate that. Thank you. You realize you're getting paid to do that, right? Like, it's like that kind of stuff. You had to understand in people's mindset that some people need to be told they did a good job or that they accomplished something or you recognize them a lot more than you do in those other situations. Is it necessary? You can debate that on depending on the individual. Because some players, I can yell at some kids I was coaching at, and other kids I couldn't. I had to talk to them a different way to get the same results out of them. That's the same thing in corporate America. When you're a professional person, that stuff goes out the window. You're here to get a job. You're being paid. This is how it's going to be.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I mean, of all of the environments you're in, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, football is a very intense sport as opposed to, it's more violent than other sports. And the coaches are maybe like more heavy-handed in football than they would be in like baseball or other or non-contact sports. But of all of the environments, though, I would assume that the military was the most intense because I mean they're training you. You might be in a situation in combat when you literally have to kill people. I mean, I would think that the training and everything for that would be even more intense than football.
Yeah, there's in the military that there's something that's said about that. They break you down so that hey, I don't care what you used to do. I don't care what your attitude. I don't care how you think you were raised. I don't care what your perception is. We're gonna break that down. And you say this is how we want to do. This is your floor. We're gonna train you back up to your ceiling so we can build this house. There's no gray area there. There's no, well, can I do it my way? Nope. This has been proven. It's been tested. Here's how we get there. Now, once you get that way and you're in command situations or unforeseen circumstances come, you overcome, improvise, and adapt. You have to think outside the box sometimes. That's fine. But while you're getting there to prepare for that, there's no gray area. I need to know exactly what Leverett's going to do and Billy's going to do and Jimmy's going to do left, right behind me because they've been trained the same way I've been. It's not, I hope Leverett got this right. I hope he studied last night. Hope he's ready for his presentation. No, you better be ready, dude, because if you're not, all of us are going to be in trouble.
100%. And I mean, maybe also with how, being in the military probably made you more resilient and mentally strong. And it was probably one of the hardest things. One of my friends was telling me about like when he joined the Coast Guard training was one of the hardest things he did with the boot
Oof.
camp and everything. I mean, did kind of everything after the military feel like a cakewalk because it it was so intense being in the military?
I would say in a lot of ways, yes. The only thing that wasn't a cakewalk was the first time you became a parent, because that was like, once you were a parent, you suddenly realize 100% this is not about me anymore. Like, it is completely not about me. Like, everything I am doing on some level, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, sometimes completely, is focused on their well-being and your family's well-being. That was the only thing that being in the military kind of didn't prepare me for. It gave you discipline, gave you structure, and you gave you confidence you can handle anything, but there's so many unknowns there.
100%. Wow, that's and yeah, I mean you must have learned a lot, through that experience, but obviously I mentioned you've done basically everything a human could do in your past, but as far as the future moving forward, I mean, what are your big plans in the near future?
Well, right now I'm doing a lot of some fractional CMO work, which stands for Chief Marketing Officer. There's a lot of startups and AI companies or companies that have going through transitions and they don't understand or don't know yet how they can implement some of these new innovations that are coming, how they need to restructure the company, what the market space they should go after, or do they need to do anything at all? So, and when you come up with a great idea, you maybe have a great idea as an engineer or an application or a platform or a SaaS or a PaaS, whatever, but you don't know how to bring it to market and monetize it, let alone talk to investors, let alone talk to board directors. That kind of stuff is what I do really well. And what I'd love to do is just, I'd love to find a home, and as corny as it sounds, is I'm an empty nester now completely. I'd love to find a company where I come in, build a team and grow a team, or even if it's an individual contributor, but come in and be part of a company and watch it grow, ride it into the sunset and see the fruition through the fruits of my labor and see how the company's done things and then retire. Like, that's what I'm looking for right now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and kind of a two-pronged question. If anyone is looking to bring you on board for your marketing or AI services, how can they get in touch with you? And also, for anyone listening to this podcast who wants to follow you on social media, what are your social media handles?
So I'm mainly on for the first one. Find me on LinkedIn. It has my profile on there, my resume, my background, my employment history and work experience and skill sets. Find me there. On TikTok, I'm I have two profiles. There's a Coach Flowers profile, and then on same thing on Instagram. You can find me as Coach Flowers in there.
Absolutely, and everyone definitely check him out on those platforms. It's funny you mentioned LinkedIn. We follow each other on multiple social media channels, although I don't think we're connected on LinkedIn. I'll have to be one of those people who requests you on LinkedIn. Although you probably get so many requests, I'm not even sure if I'll get accepted. I mean, this guy's such a big deal. But Jonathan, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And do you have any kind of final words or advice for
Well,
anyone listening?
well, final was kind of like this last Super Bowl. Right before halftime, there was a Super Bowl commercial called "I Am a Champion." It was directly based off of the high school speech that went viral that I did like 12, 15 years ago. Um, they reached out to me via my daughter. It was a really cool story. Real quickly, they were trying to get in touch with me. I didn't know this. Apparently, one of the guys there that was assigned to the account for the agency talked to a friend of his, and she goes, "Oh my god, I go to college with his daughter." They reached out to my daughter, and my daughter blew my phone up, said, "Hey, Dad, they're trying to reach you about your speech in the Super Bowl." And I'm like, "Whatever." I blew it off. I was like, "Whatever." Finally, I got in touch with the person. We had a conversation. I got to talk about the talent they wanted to pick, the purpose behind the speech. They came up with a commercial. I signed an NDA about not saying anything until the commercial launched. We watched it downtown at Sushi Confidential in San Jose. I hope if you're ever in San Jose, great place to have sushi. But the thing launched. My daughter didn't know it was coming on, so she was working at Starbucks. So a friend of hers, I called the manager and said, "Hey, I need you to have her watch her phone, watch the commercials, and just take a picture of her." They caught her crying and everything. It was a beautiful shot. I posted on LinkedIn and on Facebook, so it was a
Wow.
great time. But that was the culmination of just having that passion in the military, that guided that speech, taking youth football, coaching, that stuff, not thinking much about it, blowing up to something and coming full circle and becoming to an advertising or marketing person, having to be part of a Super Bowl commercial. I was like, I'm good now.
Yeah, I mean the Super Bowl commercials, that's like the big leagues of the commercial world as far as how many people are watching them, you know. So
Yeah.
that's pretty epic. Your daughter must have been very, very proud. But Jonathan, like I said, it's been great having you on the podcast. Anyone looking for marketing or AI help at your company, definitely hit them up, and everyone else, give them a follow on social media.